Hey, welcome to Diz and Hers, the show about what's happening in the Disney community from his, hers, and your perspective. And I'm Eric.
And I'm Lauren, and we are going to switch it up today. That's my best
You
scratch.
should not do that, scratching. There are audio engineers that can easily make a scratching sound.
All right, we're switching it up today. So we just got back from an epic trip to Disneyland that started with a spa appointment and ended up with a trip to the hospital where Walt Disney passed away. And tons of money spent on Ubers in the meantime. We thought you'd give you a little special edition of Diz and Hers from his, hers, and your perspective about our recent trip to Disneyland. First time visit to Universal Hollywood, and we bookend the trip with Mr. Jim Hill out in Las Vegas. So, Eric, first thoughts about being at Disneyland. This is the first time not there really during a holiday. I know we've not rode Haunted Mansion before, but so what did you think of California in March?
Thought the weather was fantastic. So the last time, now we've been there in July, which was super hot. And we've also been there in August, which was hot enough. I remember getting sunburnt on both occasions. So this March trip was much better for my fair pasty skin. I love hoodie weather, and I got to wear hoodies and long sleeves for the majority of the trip. I got to wear some cake-worthy, what I like to call the nerdy lumberjack look, which has Monsters Inc. and characters on, but it's a flannel but shorts. So I was very comfortable this entire trip. Loved. I kind of fell in love with the California weather, and darn, I would go in March next year if somebody should ask.
Yes. And I mean, just be aware, though, that we did not know when we booked our trip that this was also the opening weekend for the Food and Wine Festival. So pack your sweatshirts, pack your patience, and have a good time. So the weather obviously was fantastic. We had a day that got up to 90, which worked out for us because last time we went to Disneyland as a family, we stayed at the Disneyland Resort, and we had the full Disney treatment and experience. It was fantastic, but there are so many wonderful good neighbor hotels out on that coast. If you're not familiar, there's only 3 Disney hotels. So we were broadening our horizons a bit, and we ended up booking, it's called the Courtyard Marriott theme park entrance, and the hotel was probably a quicker walk, honestly, to the front of the park than staying at the Disneyland resort, and it had a full water park. So if you're in downtown Anaheim, that's not really typical. You'll get like a pool and stuff, but multiple water slides, a splash zone, a big hot tub. So that was really a selling point for us. How did you feel being out of the bubble?
Far better than you, because you would complain about the walk. So you didn't complain because it was too far. You didn't like necessarily being out of the bubble. It was fun because we would walk just the main drag, and we'd walk by a Panera Bread, and we'd walk by a McDonald's, which, dare I say, is open till 2 a.m. And every single time I passed, you would not let me go get a Big Mac. And a couple other hotels, and you did have to cross the street, and we'd do it as a mass sea of humanity. And on the corner there, you would either have someone preaching at you, literally preaching at you, or there was a man with a couple macaws, and you could have some birds sitting on your shoulder, somebody selling some waters, and my favorite, which I only saw the one day, but had the running joke of the guy with the reptiles and snakes, which he would let you pet that snake if you would give him $5. And we never did find out how much it would be if you would actually put the snake around your neck or hold. I'm guessing it was up to 20. And that was enough for Lauren to be like, yeah, this isn't as magical as my bubble experience while walking from the Disneyland Hotel, which has you going through the downtown Disney, but is a longer walk. So I personally had no problem with our hotel. It was clean. It had Starbucks or some type of coffee shop. There was food you could get. You could go to the little store and get snacks. And the room was big and comfy, and from a price perspective, I didn't do any of the booking or any of that, but it seemed to me like it was more affordable than in the hotels at Disney.
More affordable at Disney, but it would still have been like a deluxe, like out of the bubble. So it still saved about $200 a night from the Disneyland resort. And I liked it. The room was bigger, had 2 bathrooms and bunk beds. For any moms that are listening, that stuff actually matters. But yeah, it was clean. And I actually have a quick little sped up video. I'm telling you, probably 4 minutes, maybe 15 minutes from the hotel, like actually into the theme park, enjoying your day. And the cool thing was, if you are, swimmers, have kids, it's directly across the street from the Matterhorn, from Space Mountain. So they leave the pool open 10, 11, something like that. So you could actually watch
10 o'clock. We know this from a story that we might share a little later.
Yeah, we will share that story firsthand. So, and I mean, speaking of stories, so we get there the first night and we get to partake in all of the evening festivities at Disneyland. So much is happening at night, and we were finally excited to see Paint the Night. It did not disappoint. Tapestry of Happiness also on the front of Small World, fantastic. But what we did not get to do in our 5 days at Disneyland is we still have yet to see the fireworks. This time was due to the Santa Ana winds. Do you remember why we didn't get to see the fireworks last time?
Because we didn't know that they were only on weekends. And that was the main reason. We thought we had this premium awesome seat. And it turns out that there were not going to be any fireworks. And that's why no one was lining the streets. So this time around, they did go over the loudspeaker and I think they did the projection show. And we were like, yeah, no. I mean, I think we watched a little bit of it and we were like, we'll just beat the rush. So there were no fireworks. But like you said, Paint the Night, we saw that multiple times. It is fantastic. Darn, I say the best I've seen, only because I love the Main Street because it's super nostalgic. The only reason I think that it could clash a bit, but that is a different thing. This Paint the Night was everything it lived up to be, and as advertised. So I'm glad we got to see it.
Yeah. Speaking of getting to see things, what'd you think of Walt?
Well, okay. So number one complaint. I think the ride footage, and the footage that's before, is it the same thing as One Man's Dream, just with Bob Iger talking? Like, the footage is so much the same. Like, they get to the point where they start talking about live action movies. It's the exact same clips. But Walt was interesting because we know what he looks like and we know how he moves. And it is his voice, but yet it is now an animatronic. And I think we get away with using animatronics of people that we've never seen or heard, and it seems it's fine. It was fine. I mean, like, I wasn't upset with it. I'm happy to have him in the Carousel of Progress, but my expectations weren't imagined like we're going to see the exact real thing. It's not the Na'vi. It's not the shaman. What was your thoughts?
They're not going to outdo themselves with the shaman. But the funny thing about it was, by chance, we were in the theme park with our friend, a retired Imagineer, Jim Scholl, and just happened to be watching that show with him. So the first thing I wanted to know was, from an Imagineering perspective, what'd you think of Walt? And he was like, it was way too long. The pre-show was way too long. Can see that as far as an animatronic goes, if you've not watched the videos online, he is moving and he takes a step, and obviously it's his voice, but I don't know. I think it was okay, but it didn't rock my world. We'll say that. It's better than like the Walt looking like he's going to the bathroom statue that's in Epcot.
And they're doing a good job keeping Walt alive. I mean, at this point in time, he'd be 25 years old. He is still, you still know he's a real human being, and they're doing a good job keeping that. And I think for the spot, I mean, we went and saw it where the last time you didn't even see the Abe Lincoln show, like Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. So it occupied, it wasn't a filled theater, but it was something that we went out of our way to do, and we'd probably do it again. It was fine enough, so I don't have an issue with it. But let's pivot to something that we did, but let's talk about something that we ate. And one thing that was the first thing we did when we got there was we went and ate at the Plaza, which was my favorite meal, I think, of the entire trip.
And so again, I got to shout out AJ over at the Disney food blog. I did not realize the cafeteria establishments throughout Disneyland. I also did not realize that the Plaza was a character meal in the morning and then becomes a cafeteria style in the afternoon into the evening hours. So first thing we did when we got there was head to the Plaza, and Eric got the fried chicken, world famous. I got the meatloaf. The kids got some type of Alfredo. And I think that it was the best food that I could say that I ate on the trip.
Yeah. No, I honestly wanted to eat there again. That's how much I wanted to eat. And I was super hungry. Don't get me wrong. We're coming off of the flight and travel day, and we ended up at the park. So we probably got there, 2 o'clock or so. So we had a good meal, and nothing kind of lived up to that. And we didn't skimp on where we were eating. We did eat at the Blue Bayou for our son's birthday, which you were not happy with.
Oh, no, they might get a letter. No, I'm kidding.
She's not kidding.
I maybe a little bit halfway kidding. No, so Miles, our son, was turning 9, and he is cute as Christmas. He has his little, just to paint the picture for you, he's wearing little Mickey Mouse ears with a big cupcake in the middle, and he's got his Disney birthday boy shirt on, and he has his half smeared pin that he's been wearing. This was his birthday, so he was decked out. So we go into the Blue Bayou, and the food was really not it was not nearly what we remembered it being. And he was so excited to be there. He actually named his fish after this restaurant. His fish at home is named Blue Bayou. And our waiter had a table next to us, and there was a little boy over there, and they brought him a cupcake and a candle and did not bring my little nugget a cupcake and a candle. But it was okay. He still had an extremely magical birthday. But please make note that the menu has changed.
Or at least we thought it changed. I looked back, and I wrote a blog when we first went back in 2023 and looked at the food, and the food was different that I ordered there than this time around. And I mean, it was fine. It wasn't anything. It's just one of those things where you expected this to be the meal. I would have never said, if you put them against each other, the Plaza, Blue Bayou, which one's going to be the better meal? Which one was the more value? Which one had a better experience? And I'm like, oh, Plaza wins hands down. Nobody would have thought that. So that was an interesting call. And I mean, for the most part, we ate around the parks, and we just talked a lot about the snacks that you had on Diz and Hers. But give us a real quick briefing if they didn't get to watch that episode.
I mean, big fan of the raspberry macaroon. Get the baked potato. There's chocolate chip cookies by the Haunted Mansion. I mean, I could literally go on and give you a full list. If anybody wants that, let me know. I'm happy to give you the recommendations. But something that blew me away, actually, and I won't spend too much time talking about it, but I did go to the spa at the Grand Californian, and I've been to the spa there before, but only to get a pedicure. So this time I had the full Monty, and you're in a separate area. It's really, really nice. But something different that they do there, they just had so many little magical touches. It felt like old Disney. One of the things was you could, you have that earthy spa music or whatever. You could actually listen to Disney music, or classical Disney music was really cool. And they had these, I feel like they were called fancy cookies. But when I came out from my service, they had multiple types of cookies, but one fresh baked chocolate chip cookie, Perrier, multiple types of water. They really did the thing. They were in a Forbes winner, winning spa. I guess the spa director came from Alani. And so he had some, I guess, maybe demands, he or she, and it was a fantastic experience, which I think may have ultimately led me up in the hospital. I don't know for sure if that was what did me in, or not, but at the top of the show, I had mentioned that we unfortunately visited the hospital that Walt passed away in with my own medical situation, and thankfully nothing life-threatening like that. But that next evening, everything was fine after the spa. Actually, we were not fine after the spa. The things went downhill after the spa because we didn't talk about the story at the hotel. I gotta take put a pin in my Walt story. But so that evening, the Grand Californian is hooked to DCA. We had planned on seeing World of Color. It was kind of cold and, like I said, extremely busy. And so we bribed the kids and we're like, hey, if we don't go to World of Color, we'll go to the pool at the hotel. They have a hot tub. It's fantastic, whatever. So during that time, I had my services at the spa and I had my rings on, and I had intentionally wore my Grandma Janie's ring because, just sentimental, thought, it's just with us. And, had my service, put my rings back on. We ate dinner at DCA, all good, fine. Went swimming, totally fine. I'm back in the room in the shower and realize that the diamond, it's a solitaire diamond, has fallen out of the ring. And in my heart of hearts, I really thought it was gone. It was down the drain. And I was clearly very, very upset. And this is like a miracle situation. So my little boy who was turning 9, the birthday boy, he had just got out of the shower. He had his pajamas on, looking all cute. And my hero, Eric, the other half of Disney Hers, everybody took off up to the pool, the hot tub. And the funny thing was that Miles said a prayer. He had these goggles that he put on, and he and Eric jumped into the hot tub and ultimately found this diamond. There should have been zero reason. Do you want to elaborate on how that went down?
Sure. Number one, it was 9:45 and the pool closed at 10. So I just kind of wrote it off as Lauren, we have been at Disneyland. We have been here. We've been there. This sucker's gone. You're not finding this. Good thing we had insurance on it. But we at least owed ourselves, because you kind of came to the conclusion. I'm like, all right, it probably was the jets from the hot tub. So we went up there and luckily the pool was closed, or not closed, but no one was there. So the hot tub was empty. No jets were really on, so it was still. And I jumped in and I noticed where sand or dirt residue would sit. And I said, all right, barefoot, I'm going to step around. Hopefully something sharp pokes my foot. And I kind of circle around with my foot. And sure enough, I said, all right, let's see. I just assumed it was a rock. The funny thing is, I yelled, or at least complained at Lauren for bringing the goggles. I said, why are you bringing goggles? No one is swimming in a pool like this. Why are you bringing this? And she brought them anyway. But without those goggles, our 9-year-old would not have been able to go under there, because he's like, I said, all right, I'm stepping on something, go look under. And he's like, it's it. And I give him a little nudge to get all the way down there, and he grabs that sucker and pulls that out. And sure enough is the darn diamond. It was the craziest thing. There were 4 lifeguards there kind of helping us. And it was almost like if there was a room of people, there would have been a giant applause, because it is the most ridiculous thing in the world. When you hear this stuff, it's always the worst case scenario of I lost my ring, I lost it. You never find it. But here's a scenario where we actually found it. So crazy, crazy, crazy story. But how about this? Let's take a quick break. And then when we come back, you'll find out why Lauren ended up in the ER, urgent care, same place where our friend Walt had passed away. But luckily, we come out of this okay. So stay with us. When we come back, we'll give that and more from Disneyland, Universal Studios Hollywood, Vegas Unleashed, and all in between. All right, and we are back. So we talked about Lauren having a day at the hospital, but let's finish up, because that is way down the street. That is in Burbank, and we're still in Anaheim. So why don't we finish up the Disneyland trip real quick? And I kind of wanted to start with something that I thought was really peculiar or odd, or I didn't experience it before, because we've been in the Disney realm for so long. And that is somebody who walked into the park and the first thing they wanted to see at Disneyland was Star Wars Land. I thought that was incredible because I'm like, yeah, it was when it first came out, it was cool to see Star Wars Land. We were all excited about it, but it's kind of been somewhat of a letdown for most of us. But those that aren't diehard Disney fans still like that's what they wanted to see. So we invited our friend Colin to come to Disneyland for the first time in maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
And we meet him at the front of the park. And we're just like, hey, and he's just game to do anything we want to do. And we're just game to show him a good time because we're Disney people and he knows that we're obsessed with Disney. So I'm just like, you have to we need to show you a good time so that way you don't think we're crazy. But sure enough, the first thing, and we're like, we can do this. And then I think we're like, hey, and there's a Star Wars. And he's like, oh, I want to see Star Wars Land. And we spent, 2 hours over in the theme park and that doing Rise and doing Smuggler's Run. And
the funny thing is we don't ever even go back there.
No, because we're Walt Disney World people. We've been to Disney, like we've seen it a million times. So we're in Disneyland. Like I want to do Casey Jr. I want to do Mr. Toad. I want to do Pinocchio's. Like I don't want to do anything that the other parks have, right? Like it's the whole reason I still didn't do Tiana's. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. So let me do things that aren't. But
it was like the most bizarre thing ever. It was like you could see he's probably about 50 years old. You could see the little like 5-year-old, 10-year-old version of Colin just like coming out. Like he grabbed a lightsaber from one of the staff members and was like having a lightsaber battle with our son and just like pure joy. So as Disney people, and most of you probably are listening, like remember that not everybody gets to see a reenactment of Star Wars in their everyday life.
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah, that's the thing is you forget. And I will tell you, we often travel in parties of 3 or 4 that do Smuggler's Run. When you have 6 and you can pick who the drivers are and who the gunners are and who the engineers are, you can get 2 or 3 things of coaxium, which was like our best run ever because we actually had like, all right, and we set him up. We said, Colin, you're going to drive and you also get to hit the light speed since it's the first time you've ever done it. And like Miles and I were gunners, so we were real good. And you guys were the engineers in the back fixing and shooting the harpoon. So it was fun to actually be on Smuggler's Run where we didn't crash every single time because a 4-year-old was the pilot because they just so happened to be in front of you. So that is the little... me being a slightly negative on how that experience sometimes works with us, but that
yeah,
no,
but
I think
I mean, like seeing Colin see that, and then just by chance meeting with Jim Scholl in the park, and him getting to go up to the DVC lounge, and you know we've talked about it on shows before that Mickey or Minnie's house in Toontown is based. Mickey's house, I'm sorry, is based off of his mother-in-law's house in Texas. And so he was able to show our daughter. So, like, just seeing things through other people's eyes, like, that is a part of, like, why you pay for the Disney vacation. The Disney experience is quite magical. But I mean, I think I checked off everything that I could have possibly had on my bucket list besides my chimichanga. Did you check everything off of your bucket list before we go to Hollywood?
Well, I mean, I did get to, like, my big thing this trip was every time we went, the last 2 times, Space Mountain was down. So I never got to experience Space Mountain out there. And I know it was different, but it's similar, right? But we did get to do Space Mountain twice. So that was the big thing on my list that I was like, I want to do Space Mountain. I get to do Casey Jr. I got to do all my dark rides that you can't do anywhere else. And so, yeah, I think so. I mean, I would have loved to do Incredicoaster more. I only got to do it once. I've discovered their single rider line, but it just was crazy over at DCA this trip. And so we did get to do the big ones, but there's little things. I feel like the only thing that I have left is Tiana's. We have not done Tiana's, but I think everything else we've checked off. I even did the free pal around wheel, non-spinner, non-moving, like, and that is so much more tame, and I can handle that. So I feel we did Turtle Talk, so we didn't do that. So maybe the animation, we still have to do that. We did Fill Our Magic this time around. So interesting takes, had a really good time. Disneyland lived up to the hype. Super happy to see it paint the night. They literally need to keep something like that around. I mean, we used to complain about not having a nighttime parade at Walt Disney World. I'll be happy with Starlight, but something's better than nothing. But boy, the paint the night was amazing. Any lasting thoughts before we move and take that 40 minute to an hour long drive on an Uber down to Burbank in LA.
No, that pretty much sums it up at Disneyland, and hopefully we will see y'all back there in August for D23.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's talk about it. This was a major reason why we wanted to go was for those that listen to the Epic Universal podcast. I have not been to Universal Hollywood, and Jim talks about upper lot, lower lot, the tram tour all the time because it is a very historic property. And I, unfortunately, all the time, like, I don't have a clue what you're talking about, Jim. I have no idea what City Walk looks like, this, that, so forth. And I get all those hateful comments online of like, why do you got a guy on here that's never been there? So I had to fix that. So we went and stayed at where was it? Another Marriott? No, this is a Sheraton.
It was another Marriott. Yeah, it was another Marriott. It was the Sheraton. So if you're not familiar with Universal Studios Hollywood, they don't have their own hotels. So the equivalent, they have two on property. One is a Sheraton and one is a Hilton, and they both looked kind of old. And they're kind of smushed up against City Walk. But like nothing is flat there. So as far as Sheraton goes, in my opinion, it was lovely. They had a free little tram if you didn't want to be a lazy butt like us and not walk up the giant hill to get to City Walk. But like we could have walked to the theme park in how many minutes? Maybe 10?
10, 15. It was a hill. I walked back
It was
twice,
like a hill.
and it wasn't bad walking back twice. Walking up the hill, no one wanted to do it. I was going to do it one day because the trams, the little shuttles maybe took 10, 15 minutes to go around if you were lucky. But no, overall, the room was fine. I think we were on floor 16, had a cool view of just like the mountainside and traffic, and perfectly fine room. And the location was great. We didn't have to really Uber anywhere, so we saved some money in terms of going to the parks. But let's cut to the chase here, Lauren. You stayed night one, and the next day you woke up, and what was the problem?
Oh my gosh, so my face was like 5 times the size that it normally is. If you're watching this as a video, this is what I normally look like unrecognizable. And I don't know exactly what caused it, but it was brewing. Mr. Schultz took a photo and sent it to Mr. Hill. And he even said to me, like, pre-knowing this, that my face looked puffy back at Disneyland. But it just got, it looked like I just got my wisdom teeth.
Yeah. And I have wisdom teeth pictures of you as an adult. Yeah. And it looked almost worse. So we woke up bad face, not sure what was going on. And
my tongue started going numb and like going down towards my throat area.
So unfortunately that day we had to adjust our plans. We were going to take a tour of the Walt Disney Animation Studio, which we were super jazzed about. But it was one of those things like, unfortunately not today. So you hung back, and sooner or later, once you said your tongue was like swelling, we got some local information to find out the best location, urgent care to go to, and we Ubered on over there. And we'll cut story short, you ended up getting a shot and some prednisones, and we got you cleared up well enough. But that was not the best way to spend our first day at Universal Studios Hollywood.
Yeah, I didn't even go. So we had 2-day tickets. So Eric and the kids got to go a couple times. I did not get to go. So my first full experience would have been we met Jim Hill there on Thursday, and we had a full day in the parks. So any highlights from your experience?
Overall, I very much appreciate it. I've become obviously a Universal fan over the last couple years. We're nearing our 100th episode of the Epic Universal podcast. Can you believe that? We're getting close to that. But either way, I've covered a lot, so I've heard a lot, so I was very much able to appreciate it and see it with my own eyes. I really love City Walk. It kind of came out of nowhere. I think it looked like a towering city to me, and it was bright and flashy, and they had this giant neon King Kong, which like I want off the side of our house. Like I will. We have a basement that's themed like the Utilidor. Why can't I have the house themed like City Walk? He
has a full-size wrestling ring. Why not add a massive King Kong?
People aren't looking at me weird anyway, right? No, but I very much enjoyed the nostalgic aspect of it. To do something like the tram tour, which I've seen online, was super cool. and also to see things like the Waterworld stunt show and the Secret Life of Pets, and to see the upper and lower lot, all the escalators and the views, and just kind of seeing another theme park that was clean. And honestly, when you step into a brand new theme park, like the first time we stepped into Disneyland or DCA, anytime you go somewhere new that is of a good quality, you have this nice feeling. So I enjoyed it, but let's hear your general thoughts, because we pretty much got to do mostly everything, or I did.
Yeah, there's a lot of duplication between Hollywood and Florida. So, like Eric was saying, at Disneyland, he wants to just tackle the things primarily that we don't have on our coast. That's how I felt going into it. But seeing Waterworld, that stunt show was really good. Secret Life of Pets would be like the equivalent of the Dr. Seuss. I even went on the Jurassic World.
I think it was I think it was better than Florida's version, but I liked it.
Yeah, it's like small. It's smaller in scale. Like even to go to the lower lot and see Super Nintendo World, like it really is far larger versions, kind of like the supersized version on the East Coast, like the castle. But like it was charming and it was clean and it was nice. And we got to go in the new Fast and the Furious Hollywood Drift gift shop. No new merch just yet. But I thought it was a really nice experience. Really liked their version of City Walk. I'm not sure what the big difference was. Maybe it feels more quaint or like authentic. I don't know. But like it gave me the feels. I liked it.
Yeah. I think overall and I mean, you guys can hear Jim and I sit down in the park and we give a general overview in an episode. So depending on when this comes out, you've either heard that or you'll get the full-fledged up and down plus stories and so forth. So make sure you listen to that. But I thought Universal Hollywood it lived up to the hype. The tram tour, I did face my fears and saw Bruce Jaws himself. I did not sit directly next to him, but I did see him with my own two eyes. And yes, when the music starts playing, my heart did race a little bit, but it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought. There is something that still triggers old emotional trauma for me. Really, they advertised that King Kong was down, but we got to witness it, and I'm very happy we did, because they did have the finale, which was the Fast and Furious down, and it was a very abrupt end of like, well, there you go, kind of deal.
Yeah,
but
the end of the tram tour was weird, certainly.
Yeah, and you got to do it twice.
Yeah, I did it twice. I mean, it was pretty similar. I just wanted to sit at a different angle to see. And I mean, it really, if you're not familiar, I think it is like a 60-minute experience. So it is something that you need to be patient for. But that was the one thing that I really wanted to soak it all in. But like if the Hershey's had not had enough at that point, Jim Hill was like, let's get some more. Let's do some more. Vegas. Yeah.
Well, let's real quick. Let's give, Jim doesn't like taking compliments, probably, but this man hauled all our bags. So
he did.
We flew from Vegas.
There's 5 of us.
Yeah, from Burbank Airport, which I was not necessarily a giant fan of, to Las Vegas, and got there in several hours. But Jim was a knight in shining armor and grabbed all our luggage that was heavy as all hell and drove it 4 hours to meet us there because he had a rental car. And we stayed at the Luxor, and there is a reason for that. Yeah, it's a pyramid, but we were going to Vegas for number one reason is Horror Unleashed, which, if you're not familiar, is the year-long Halloween Horror Nights experience by Universal that opened up, I dare say, in August, around this time. August, I think, and it is an area in a place called Area 15, and Jim and I have been covering it and from start to finish, and I have never been to a Halloween Horror Nights, and obviously for Universal fans, that is a huge deal. That is a big thing, and I needed to experience it, just like I needed to experience Hollywood. Like, I'm committed to being a good podcaster, or at least knowing what the heck I'm talking about. Good is probably relative, but we went there with that hopes because Vegas is not necessarily doing so hot, and we fear that something like this might go away because there's not enough good things happening in Vegas to keep it afloat. So we're like, we better get out there sooner than later. So we tapped this on. And because we're out there, there is so much history and fascinating with themed entertainment. We said we're going to do like the themed entertainment tour. And it was going to be a family of, we're now having 6. It's R5 and Jim got to hang out and see what it's like to be tourists with us.
And he rolled.
He rolled. So we stayed at the Luxor because we're going to find out in coming weeks or months. We're going to probably do some series on Vegas in which we'll talk about the 3 attractions they had at the Luxor and why they're no more and who was involved in that. But your opinion and Jim's opinion and almost everybody's opinion of Luxor was not that great, right, Lauren?
No, leave that. Don't do that.
She did not. We watched Brightside Films months ago, and he did a tour of it. And
Jake warned us.
Yeah, he did. But I don't care. I wanted to. I needed to experience for myself. But Jim had great jokes. What did he say? It was something about
he said it was a sadistic contemporary.
Yeah. So.
Like, because you really are, you're not going up an elevator, you're going in an inclinator, and because it's going diagonally, because you're going up the side of a pyramid, and so they have all these different, like, red elevator, gold elevator. I can smell it from here.
Yeah.
So let's leave Luxor in Vegas.
Yeah. Well, all right. So Lauren and I have traveled to Vegas as a couple, and we've stayed at a little condo, and we got to do like the double-decker bus tour, and we did our touristy things and had a really, really good time. We brought our kids this time around, and we stayed in a casino. And yes, everything did smell like smoke, and we all got headaches at certain points in time, and the kids were not necessarily as thrilled with everything. So this time around was not a great Vegas experience. We had as much fun as one could, but nonetheless, it was a unique experience, and I dare say I would much rather go with Lauren by myself and stay somewhere else next time around. But we did have some highlights. If you are interested in the take on Horror Unleashed, I will tell you this. I liked it. I am now a Halloween Horror Nights fan. I can handle it even though I don't like jump scares. There is an entire 60-minute episode that will be coming out on the Epic Universal podcast where Jim and I highlight everything. So let's talk about some of the other elements, Lauren. We went to the Sphere.
Well, no. First, you were missing my highlight. That is not fair.
What is your highlight?
So they dropped us off at Universal Horror Unleashed. Like, they tossed us out of the Uber, and we were like, good luck.
Well, because you guys wouldn't go. Let's be real. You did not want to get scared.
Yeah, so I do have to say that there was a pop-up Malibu Barbie cafe across the street at Area 15, and that was a really fun surprise. So my little guy, Miles, and Lainey and I, we went over there, and for the price of admission, you got like $10 off like the food at the cafe and like $5 towards merch. And but they had, make your own ice cream sundaes and cupcakes and all the photo ops. Like, I saw lots of Barbie girls. I mean, we saw old Barbie girls and young Barbie girls and boy Barbie girls, all Barbie girls. Yeah. So anyways, and then there was also some really fun, like, Malibu Barbie roller skating. So that pop-up will be there to the end of March. So fun. But we did go to the Sphere, like Eric said. That was another. Jim was hoping to witness the Wizard of Oz at the Sphere. And your thoughts, sir?
Well, I was one that actually purchased these tickets. We got them through, I think Sam's Club had a slight deal. So a friend of the show gave us some tips to go to Sam's Club. So I got to pick the tickets. I did pick the cheapest tickets,
which were still expensive.
Right. So that is my problem, is that when we were there, the cheap tickets were all filled, and then the pricier tickets, the seats were empty. And that means, you guys, that the price of admission, people feel that, like, we'll pay this, but we won't pay this. And I think that they should adjust so that way everything is full. And for the seats we have is 50%, maybe even, even if it's 30% off, it would make it more reasonable. So the experience was nice. It was interesting, needless to say. There were some elements that were super cool, but for the price, I expected this sucker to be 3D in my face and immersive the entire time. In my opinion, it was cool. We watched the Wizard of Oz. There were some falling apples. There were some leaves that floated around. There were some monkeys that kind of seemed immersive. Man, I would not pay for a family to do it again. But you would have to really get a movie that, dare I say, really moves me to do it. Say a Star Wars could probably do something like that. Man, it would be really tough for me to say it was worth the price of admission. It was cool, but worth the price of admission is what I'm trying to state.
Probably not worth the price of admission. However, it was a very cool, a breathtaking experience to be in the sphere, the size and the scale. And there was some immersion. And so, like, it was definitely an enjoyable experience. Would you fly across the country for that? I don't know. Like, if you are a huge Wizard of Oz fan, and the way that they made that work, there was some AI and some, CGI, all those words used.
It was a little wonky looking at times, but I'm not a film purist. It was fine.
Yeah. I mean, it was fine. I'm glad that we got to do it, to experience it, and I also do think that has been checked off the bucket list, and
Right. I will save the money to buy an annual pass to one of the theme parks that I love as opposed to going back. But we did do a couple other things in Vegas that were interesting enough. I, as a wrestling fan, there was a point in time where there was a place called the WCW Nitro Grill, and that was a wrestling themed restaurant that was at the Excalibur and is no longer there, but it does have a Dick's Last Resort there. So we showed how great of parents we are, and we took the entire family to Dick's Last Resort. And we were all made fun of for 45 minutes, and we left a great tip.
My kids thought it was great.
Yeah. No, the kids absolutely loved it. Luckily, most of the jokes still went over my 9-year-old's head, where the 19 and the 15-year-old really enjoyed. And so that was like a bucket list item. Took pictures. I'll compare and contrast the old Nitro Grill elements there. And then, of course,
we went... Jim on Circus and the SpongeBob
that was
ride.
I was going to say, we went to Circus, which is completely... no offense to anybody that loves Circus or is staying at Circus, but that is, the Luxor is the contemporary compared to the Circus. But we went there and we did the SpongeBob dark ride, which was fun. And we managed to look
see
into
a real
the adventure.
Trapeze artist.
We saw a clown balance 6 chairs on his chin. We got to play some of the midway games in which I was basically telling the kids, like, guys, even if you're good at this, we can't take that giant stuffed animal home. There is no room. But yeah, I mean, it was fun to see Circus. So we did Excalibur. We did Circus. We walked around Caesar's Palace. We saw the old 1980-esque animatronic show in the Galleria of the Caesar's Palace, which was, boy, it was something else. But so we kind of made like a little themed experience of Vegas as best as we could. And
I just think we leave Vegas in Vegas. Isn't that the saying? Like, what stays in Vegas, happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas?
Next time we go to Vegas, we're not bringing everybody along. It was more pricey than, it does live up to the hype that when you're buying meals in Vegas for 5, 6, whatever, it wasn't cheap. It was, dare I say, more than Disney prices. So
yeah, I think it was at the end.
And Ubering around was not cheap either. So we will save Vegas.
Stay in the bubble, thank you.
Yeah. So we'll stay in our little Diz and hers atmosphere. But Disneyland lived up to the hype. Universal Studios Hollywood, lovely, fantastic, and Vegas. There are elements that were great. Unleashed was very, very good, and I'm glad I did that. But my favorite part of this entire trip is we got to literally hang out with some great people. Dare I say, we got to experience parks for the first time with some new people, and some, obviously, touring with Jim Hill is literally having a tour guide tell you anything and everything about what was here. Seeing some Easter eggs from Jim Scholl in things that he built. We had wonderful... We sat at City Walk with a friend that we've been wanting to meet for quite some time, and a great friend of the show. That was fantastic. And, walking around Disneyland with a Star Wars fan and somebody who hasn't been there for a while and showing stuff for the new time. Like, that's great. So overall, I had a very fun trip and would do it again. Even the Vegas part, maybe take out a sphere or two.
Yeah, no, I agree. But it was a beautiful 9 exhausting days with some of the best people. The memories made, that's why we do what we do. But I think on that note, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Diz and Hers. For more, make sure you're hitting up dizandhers.com. There you'll find articles, episodes, and updates. And if Disney's your vibe, hit subscribe.
Yeah, and thanks for hanging with us on this kind of unique trip report episode. If you guys like things like this, let us know. We have plenty of opinions and we can just chat without any type of show notes or scripts. But for the most part, we're going to go back to what you guys are saying online. So just remember, watch what you post because you will end up in next week's episode. Thanks for listening.